Hey, everyone out there in Webland. This is Film Trooper Presents Film Marketing Fridays. This is another live Google Hangout on Air session. And I will stop this little frame here so you can see this big fat head say hello to you. My name is Scott McMahon. I'm a fellow film trooper, and I run a site called Film Trooper, which is designed to help filmmakers become entrepreneurs. I will have a guest filmmaker join me later very shortly. It's my fault. I gave him the Hangout link maybe too late, too close to when the show is supposed to go live. But this particular filmmaker, Matt Pillischer, he'll probably help me pronounce his last name better than I just did. But he's got a film called A Dark Souvenir that he's got accepted at a few film festivals, and he brought up some film marketing questions that he was hoping that we could discuss and we could share to everyone to see if we can't benefit as a whole. But in the meantime, I'll just get going on the presentation, and then as Matt comes in, we can kind of catch up from there. So here we go. Let's see here. Let's go over to the screen share and click this, click that. Everyone can see this. Great. So this is actually a great question. Matt had brought up, he works a full-time job, and as many of you do, it's like, all of us are trying to become filmmakers and would love to replace our full-time job with a film making career. So really this question hits home, which is film marketing tips when you have a full-time job. And that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. Let's see here. His film is A Dark Souvenir. Like I said, Matt will come on and he'll have a better opportunity to explain more about his film. I had the privilege of just watching it earlier today, and it was, quite interesting, quite good. And I want to have I have some more questions for him about the film. Anyhow, his film has been accepted into some festivals, some smaller festivals, and he had a question about, well, how do you promote when you have no budget? So you did all this work, you got your film into some film festivals, but now that once you go to the film festival, your work is not done. You got to promote, you got to advertise so you can get as many people at your screening as possible. But if you don't have a budget, well, how do you do that? And then how do you promote when you don't know anyone at the city of the film festival? And that's a hard one too, because you're just like, hey, we got accepted in Kansas. I don't know. I've never been there before. I don't know anybody who lives there. I guess we're going. And, those are the realities of getting into a film festival around the world that you got to deal with. If you're able to even travel, sometimes you get into film festivals and you're just not able to attend because you just can't afford to travel there. So what do you do to hopefully, benefit that your film is going to do well? Let's see here. Well, the main thing you want to do is take inventory of your strengths. And on top of that, are your strengths in alignment with your film story? And what I mean by this is, it's interesting because in the film that Matt had made, he's got, again, the story is about like a married couple. They're on their honeymoon, and on their travels to the honeymoon in like Sweden and stuff like that, they come back with some dark entity that kind of messes with their whole relationship, and it just spirals down this horrific path. Oh, and here he is. He's popping in. So I have a better Matt. There he is.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? Welcome aboard.
Good.
Look at you in the dark room and everything. So I just want to give you a quick update. I just started the Hangout like 5 minutes ago, just to keep the live aspect of it going. Okay. And I kind of gave a little update about what your film is, but I think it's best if you kind of introduce yourself so that I make sure that I pronounce your last name correctly. Okay. And you can tell us a little bit more about A Dark Souvenir, and then we can kind of backtrack real quick to the questions that you had sent me, and then together we'll do our best to sort of have the discussion. And by the way, anybody who's out there, there is a Q&A app. If you're on the Hangout page, you can actually just write up questions, and I'll be able to see them on the screen on the right side here, and be able to help answer anything that we can try to answer together. So, Matt, I know that I just jumped on, but
Yeah.
would you be, once you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you as a filmmaker plus a Dark Souvenir?
Okay, great. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great. You look great. I think it's funny because everything's dark, which is perfect because it's Friday the 13th,
I know,
and
right?
your film is a perfect
This is
sort of
great.
segue to that.
Yeah,
So,
cool. I'm Matt Pillischer, and I've been making movies since I was a kid. That's who I really am, a filmmaker. But I'm an artist. I try and do a little of everything. Um, I made a feature documentary that has had some success through self-distribution and no budget, called Broken on All Sides. And I just finished a narrative horror thriller film called A Dark Souvenir. And and so that's, I think, how I connected with you through Twitter. And I have been I've been eating up podcasts about no budget filmmaking and independent filmmaking and marketing, trying to figure out what to do. And I made A Dark Souvenir, much like you made The Cube, without much of a plan afterwards. It was just something I needed to do, and with the resources I had, so the resource filmmaking. And so now I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on and chat with you about marketing ideas. I'm about to do some film festivals the end of this month and next month. So that's it. A Dark Souvenir is a feature film, and it's about a honeymooning couple that comes home, and they visited this kind of creepy fort, and they end up bringing some spirit or haunting back with them. And so they're starting this married life, and all these strange things start to happen and occur, and you start to figure out what is this haunting, and can they survive it. That's what A Dark Souvenir is.
very cool. Yeah, it's I appreciate it giving me the opportunity to take a look at it. So I was able to watch the whole movie before.
Oh, great, good,
Yeah, so
good.
it was really cool. You kind of remind me. I don't know. It's kind of like a mumblecore horror film, you know.
Right, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
But but it's interesting because you got a lot of good like interesting music in there, and that's what I want to touch upon a little bit today about the presentation. But let me backtrack so you can see this. I know that you were, like I said, it was my fault. I sent you the link, too late, so I wasn't sure.
That's okay.
Like, I was like, oh, I got to start this. But okay, let me head back real quick so you can follow up where we were.
Okay.
I'll just jam through this so everybody can see this again. But okay, so you see this, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what we did was we first took this main theme of the hangout today, which is like film marketing tips when you have a full-time job, which is a reality for like almost everybody. So in your particular case, A Dark Souvenir has been accepted to the film festivals, as you mentioned. So the question is like, well, how do you promote when you have no budget? That was one of your questions. And like, well, how do you promote when you don't know anyone at the city of the film festival that you got into, which is a big problem. So the one thing we can do is maybe take inventory of your strengths, and then in specifically, are the strengths in alignment with your film story? And the reason why I bring this up, as I bring back to my fat head here in a second, the reason I brought that up is because in your film, I said the music, you have it sounds like a lot of original music, and then your characters, you playing the husband plus, I don't know if it's your real wife or not, but the woman plays her wife. You have there's some musical talent there, and and it looks like a little, segue. There's like behind the scenes, it looks like posters of like you guys created that look like you guys are in a band or something. So there's a musicality to your movie that exists. And the reason I asked about the strengths is like, okay, so maybe it's like time to like make a checklist. So like, well, I can edit, I can shoot things, I can play music. There's a music aspect to this film. Also, from what I gather, are you Jewish as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so then because you tap into that a little bit in your story,
Right.
so that also would be like a check mark to like strength.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think something, so the whole point is like anybody where they're at. It's just like, okay, like you said, this again, we got to go back to the resources of like, okay, what resources do I have, and here's my strengths. So then we can take a look at, okay, so you head into a festival. I'm going to go back to the screen share real quick.
Okay.
Blah blah. This is me. Okay.
This is cool. I've never seen you. I've only listened to your podcasts in the car. So it's cool to see the whole presentation.
Well, yeah, it's pretty rough, but I think that's what I like about these Google Hangout on the Airs type things. It's just, it allows everybody to kind of see, I don't know, the inner workings of, you know, something that's not so polished, but trying to get to the root of these questions that I think a lot of us already have.
Yeah.
So yeah, so let's just focus on like anybody promoting at a festival, and you've already whoops, where am I going here? Sorry, so many screens. Okay. All right, you've already done this already, which is like they always recommend that you got to check in with the festival's publicity team. They might not be able to help you, but at least that's the first step. Is ask like, because their incentive is to make sure that the festival is successful. So if you can find out like what makes their festival successful, or what they hope that filmmakers will do to help them make the festival successful, you'll be in a win-win partnership moving forward prior to showing up at the festival if you can get there in person. If you can't get there in person, there might be a different strategy that they can recommend. Then basically you're just asking the publicity team or the offices of the festival if it's like, hey, I'm a filmmaker, I was accepted, what can I do to help you guys in terms and help my film make it a win-win in terms of the whole experience for the community that this festival is playing at to make it a success. Because you're going to ask, like, well, what's worked in the past? You might just ask them that question. What has worked in the past for other filmmakers? And they, because you know, they're like, oh, that's a good question. Well, you know, we had somebody come in and they did this type of thing, or they brought these people, or it was really great. You know, anything you get a better sense of like how that festival operates, or you might get a sense like, oh my God, they have no idea what they're doing.
right.
But this is a big thing. You make sure you want to know when your film plays. Like, wait, I got a 1 a.m. Screening time. What? 1 a.m. Like you might find like, yeah, you're part of like this midnight play. Like, oh my God, there's nobody gonna stay awake at 1 o'clock in the morning. So you kind of have to know what your reality is. Like you might be like, I have a 9 o'clock in the morning screening time. Like oh my God, like there's nothing like you had thought like what was gonna happen. So it's important to know when your film is going to play, so you can develop your strategy plan prior to arriving, or if you're not there, figure out what to do about that. Also, if you can, find out what venue your film is going to play at, because the reason I bring that up is because you want to kind of know what surroundings are around that venue. A lot of film festivals nowadays, they're not just at like a theater, they're like somebody makeshift, like, oh, here's a screen, we put a projector up, and it's in a bar. But if you can kind of find out where the venue is, like, is it across the street from a really cool bar or a club? Just so that you have a lay of the, a diagram of something, what's going on around there, just so you can tap into the realities of whoever gets a chance to see your film. What sort of overall experience are they going to have? Is the parking shitty? Is like, all this. I mean, there's so many things that could happen where it's like would make the experience of an audience coming to you see your film a bad one if you have no control of all these other surroundings.
Right.
Obviously,
that's a really good point.
Obviously too, if you don't even know if it's on a digital projector, what kind of like how big the screen is, like is there going to be like is it in a bar like I said, and next door is a soccer tournament going on that's distracting? You know what I mean? Like what the overall tone is. So that helps with your game plan. And then one thing you could do too is like find out what films have played in the previous year's festivals, and just simply contact those filmmakers for advice. Like, hey, you played at this festival. What do you recommend? They might give you some insight. And then if you can, of course, if you're not there, or if you're going to be there or you're not going to be there, if you can try to connect with a local group. I don't know what that group is, because it all depends, like on what festival it is, what city It is
Yeah.
like who's sponsoring it. Just to say hello and to start asking the same questions that you would ask the publicity team, but you can ask a local group because there might be somebody there who's like, I had no idea we had a film festival. Somebody, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's trying to like narrow down like the realities of what's going to happen, and none of this right now has anything to do with money. This is just simply reaching out and trying to ask the right sort of questions so you get a better sense of what you're getting into when you get to any film festival. And here's one tip. It's always good. It's like you could use gift cards or you can barter in exchange for promoting. So like if you don't know anybody in the city but you need to reach out ahead of time, what can you offer in exchange? Well, that's why we looked at that inventory list of what strengths you do have. There might be a local actress that is volunteering or didn't get a chance to volunteer at the film festival, but you can make them your volunteer in exchange for like, I will edit your demo reel. Like I will edit your acting reel. You send me all the stuff, I edit your acting reel because that's a strength I have because I can edit. If you in exchange could do these things for us at your local city or for this film festival, those are types of things. Or I can shoot your kid's birthday party. You never know. I mean, it's this the power of the barter is very useful if to think outside the box when you don't have a budget, or if you do have a little bit of a budget but you don't want to get too crazy, you can ask somebody to help out, but then kind of throw in at the very end like, thank you so much for helping me out. I'm sending you these gift cards. Whatever it might be, like, oh, an Amazon gift card, very cool. Just like somebody extending that effort of appreciation goes a long way.
Yeah.
So all these questions don't necessarily lead to answers, but asking the right sort of questions will help reveal sort of what your reality is. And the big thing too is this was from last session as well, but this slide is probably something I'm going to be using a lot, which is be focused on what results you want. You know what I mean? Because that way you're not wasting your time on other things when if you can be lasered in on, the only result I want to get out of this film festival is this. And so knowing what those results are will help focus on your marketing efforts. Let's see here. Okay. So let's just go back. We'll say, what wins can you get? So you say you go to these film festivals, right? This is for people. Obviously, you're not a first-time filmmaker. You've had an award-winning documentary, but sometimes a lot of filmmakers, this might be their first time making a film and a first time like doing the film festival circuit, or a little tour. So you kind of have to gauge that. Like, well, what am I hoping to get out of this? One, enjoy yourself, right? You did all this hard work, and you only live so long. You might as well just enjoy the effort. Like, you made something, you might as well just enjoy it. But as long as you know what you're getting into, if you go back to like, okay, this particular festival, everything is being shown in a barn, and afterwards there's gonna be live music or whatever it might be. So I'm not going to put a lot of stock in terms of what could happen, but my film may play better this way or not play better this way, but I'm not get too hung up on it. I'm going to enjoy all the other things about it that I can. And then you have to ask yourself, is all this a learning experience? But you take that experience and then you want to apply it to maybe the next thing. Like, okay, wait. I had such a great time at this festival in Kentucky or whatever it might be. Like, I had no idea they were so great, and I saw like how other films were marketed, or those who won the festival, or maybe you win this year. If you don't win, like, who does win and how do they win, or what were the politics behind the festival? But if you can figure out, like, what, my win, the only thing I want to focus on at this film festival is to be a learning experience, to enjoy myself, to make the connections and a good impression at this particular film festival, because maybe next year I'm coming back with a full marketing plan with a whole nother film, And the one other thing too, if you're in a festival, then it's time just to make good with the festival program directors. Basically, just thank them and their whole staff of all the hard work they've done and getting having that opportunity to get your film into their festival. Because what happens is if you are calculating that you want to come back next year with a film, you already have that relationship. They see you as a cordial filmmaker and a considerate filmmaker that enjoyed the experience and did your best to try to add to the value of their festival. Think about much easier that's going to be next time. You're like, you know what? I come back. I have a much better film, or I think that's going to fit so much better in this festival. And you already have an in. That's how those Sundance people, man. Like somebody gets in a short, they're in as an alumni, even Slam Dance and stuff.
Right.
Like that. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to it's all about networking. So once you know the people, that's half the battle for sure.
Yeah, and that's part of the marketing plan too. Like if the networking is the result you're looking for, then you're laser focused on that. Meaning that you're here doing everything about your film it's basically your little icebreaker, your business card. You're at a party, you have something that you can talk about, but really what you're trying to do is get to know all the other people that are at the festival, because you're trying to make a play for next year to have even a more effective marketing plan or a better film that fits that festival. Things like that could happen.
Yeah.
Or you might want to just find your fans. Like, you don't know. Maybe you're just like, I don't know if anybody wants to see my film at all. And then somebody, resonates with what you've done. And then you're like, okay, I got to hold on to these particular small group of fans. And how do I, take these small group of fans that I meet at this festival, then the next festival, and how do I harness that? Obviously, you want to get them on an email list so you can keep them up to date what you're doing. But those are your first steps in trying to get anybody to like the stuff you do. And then you want to get you build your fan base, but that could be the strategy. The entire strategy of your film festival tour is just to find those fans, which is something you brought up in your questions. So going back to Dark Souvenir, you had brought up a question like, well, man, should I just give away the film away for free in exchange to build an audience? It's something definitely worth thinking about, because you already understand the bigger play, which is I need to build an audience for my entire career. So if I can give them something away for free in exchange just to have this relationship with them, via email, whatnot, and keep them up to date in my next project, by the time you come around your next project, you'll have a marketing plan for the festivals that you already entered. And those festival directors might know other festival directors that they can get you into, or you have a better shot at getting into. And on top of that, you have an audience that you started that you can take with you. So so the whole point is your focus gets clearer and clearer, because you're like, okay, I'm making the play for the long tail. So let's see here. Give the film away for free. You said maybe give away some DVDs at the screening, or not the screening, but just give away DVDs, or sell, or have them ready, or sell them at some horror conventions or whatever to build a following. They definitely recommend after any film festival, if you're screening your film, to have some DVDs ready. Just because people are in the moment. And sometimes they feel obligated. And maybe you offer for inexpensive, or you just offer it away for free. If you want this DVD, all I'm asking for is an email. Something that, that's some people.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
Yeah. I thought about too. I thought about something where you could just give a postcard inexpensively, and there's a link or a code that some people get the digital, but they can lose that. There's still something tangible, valuable when somebody's in person holding onto the DVD. They're not just gonna throw it away like they would a postcard. So I agree.
DVD. Yeah.
So and again, so let's see here. What else? Whoops, where am I going here? I always hit the wrong screen. Or you also had another question, should I partner with other micro-budgeted filmmakers so that we can create a bundle, offer a combo deal, so that it's a little bit more attractive? That is definitely a possibility. It's interesting because it's hard if you have somebody be the cheerleader or the leader of that offering, because that means that everybody's got to agree. If it's a very clear deal, everybody understands what the offer is supposed to do to help everybody.
Right.
Then definitely that could be a play, especially if you're at the same film festival. So maybe, if the film festival is not doing it themselves, you as a filmmaker could do that, knowing like ahead of time, contacting the other filmmakers that are going to be at that film festival, and say, hey, you know what? I'm showing my film at this screening at this venue. I'm going to be giving away my DVDs in exchange for an email, or if you have DVDs, I can bundle them even though they're not there, and exchange for an email address, and we can share the email addresses or something. So it's known, or they want to make a sale. But just by reaching out to other filmmakers prior to going could be very helpful, because you can see like, well, if the festival is not going to be able to take care of you, maybe you and a select few can get together and help each other. Because like somebody might not see your film because they had to be at another film, but because you had done the due diligence of working with these filmmakers, they inadvertently could get your film to another audience that wasn't there. So it's one of those things like that doesn't cost you anything other than the cost of the DVD and just time nurturing those relationships with the other filmmakers that are going to be at the festival. So it's an idea to generate. So I think it's worthy. Something you brought up that is definitely could work.
Let me add, can I ask you something here? So I think that's a great idea in terms. I actually wasn't thinking of it in terms of festivals. I was thinking of it in terms of like just people I meet, however, that I know that are filmmakers, but have different small audiences. It's a way to sort of share our audiences. But so maybe we could talk about that too. But I love the festival idea because, I mean, a lot of times if you've been to a festival, people are like, oh man, I wanted to see your movie, but my movie was playing, or I wanted to see it, but I went to this other thing, or I had work, or, and so I love the idea that you could do this for the festivals with a bunch of directors getting together, and then it's like you have something out of it. You have a collective of filmmakers you've met, and maybe you get to collect some emails. So I think that's a very cool idea. But also I was thinking in terms of like you, I mean, not that I'm not proposing that we do it, but like you're in Portland.
Yeah.
I'm in Philly. That guy Frankie Frayne I mentioned to you is in Massachusetts. And like we all have our small little audiences, and what if you had some kind of thing where you get behind this package and say, hey, all my fans, you've seen my movie, but now you can get this deal where there are these other filmmakers involved, and I really like their work, so pay $10 and give us your email to get these 5 micro-budget films,
Yeah, definitely. I know there's another filmmaker, Patrick McBrearty, who did the movie The Door, and when he launched his film onto iTunes and so on in October around Halloween, he did his best to package his film with some like a bundle of like horror DVDs. I think in his own collection or something like that. But he literally just grabbed what the strengths he had, resources he had, and made something happen in terms of a bundle. But right. I know what you're saying. I definitely feel like there's something there in terms of like organizing something via website too, just something that we're filmmakers like you and I get together, like you said, and others, that we just power together and figure out a way to deliver our packaged films as a package to an audience. Just knowing what that unique selling proposition is going to be interesting, because it's because it's like, fans of independent film are usually sometimes other filmmakers wanting to know like how these films are made, versus finding people like, look, I just love all B-rated, films, but I love films that have like a lot of gore, So, okay. So if you were able to be in alignment, making sure that everything's in alignment, like, okay, I've got here's 5 films that match that desire,
Right.
and that's a much more attractive sales bundle.
True.
Whatever you're selling, you're always looking for that unique selling proposition.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I'm just curious, do you know, what is your take on it for a Dark Souvenir? Do you feel like you have a unique selling proposition, or like the one hook that that can be sold, that you can kind of hang like some marketing tags or marketing hooks to? Have you thought about any of that kind of stuff yet?
um, no, I mean, I think part of it is sort of what you've done with the cube, is that like, hey, I made this for what I had in my house. I made it in my house. I made it with my family in our spare time. And so part of it is the story where you have to like the filmmaker. So like, that's why I'm trying to get good at blogging and really getting personal about like my art and my journey, and like, the way people get to know you as a person through this podcast. And so there's that, but then I'm not sure what the unique hook is in terms of the story of A Dark Souvenir. So I'm kind of still trying to figure that out.
Well, from watching it, like from an outsider's perspective, I definitely see there's the your faith, like your Jewish culture.
Yes.
It's not heavy-handed in your film,
Right.
but it
Right.
is present. So the music aspect of it is really interesting, and it is like, I would call it like a mumblecore horror. Just because it has the rhythmic styling of those types of independent films, and so there's some uniqueness there, and just so it's like kind of tapping into that kind of community. I don't know. It's just like,
Yeah.
to me, those are the strengths. And so the reason I asked about the strengths is, like, say you go to these film festivals. I know that I'll go back to the film festivals, but like, if you knew like where your film is going to play, like what venue, like if there's bars nearby, and if you and the lead actress, or it's your wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you and your wife are going to be there anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe you could cut a deal where the experience of the audience is like, you come to our showing, and then you can get 50% or a coupon ticket for across the street at Joe's Smoking Pizza Joint or whatever it might be, but it's at a bar, and then we perform live music that's in association,
That's cool.
in alignment with the film, because you kind of have that aspect of, you have like that poster in that you and your wife, looks like you guys are in a band or a music, whatever it might be.
Right.
Something like that keeps it tied in.
Yeah.
Or you can, I don't know. So there's something about the trip you guys took to Sweden, and like any sort of artifacts or pictures, sharing it. So that what we're trying to do is with no budget really, or just if you're going to be there anyway, if you can partner up with a surrounding venue, because what you're trying to do is use the film as a catalyst to just have people hang out and have a good time, or or talk to you. So it's not just a standard Q&A panel, if it can be. But again, this all changes if you find out your film's playing at like 10 in the morning, and if it's and it's like there's nothing near you. It's like at a high school gym or something. Like you're like, oh, okay, so you got to get creative about like, well, how strategically can we create some added value, some other things where people can hang out with us, if we offer something up that we have talents and strengths in, which I think the music was real interesting, and or talk more about it. I'll offer up the DVD, or a CD of the songs, or do cover versions of the songs that you're going to be doing in exchange for giving DVDs. Again, knowing what your results are. It's one, you want to probably just give back. You're almost like, I want to give so much more bonus and serve that audience that chooses to come sit through and watch my film amongst all the other films I can watch at the festival. I mean, this is like, you're almost like, thank you so much. I'm not gonna ask for things from you. I want to give you guys more stuff. And if you join me, that kind of mentality,
like solidifying the true fans.
Yes. Yes.
Because I think that is one of my major goals, is to go, have a sign-up board with me at all times, and like try and collect who's going to become a fan, and it's not going to be everyone. But the people that do show up, I love that. Like thinking about how else can you make them feel like you're really getting to know me as an artist or as a person. And so I think that's, and then just solidifying, like they're never going to forget that experience when they see the next movie come out. They're like, oh yeah, I actually hung out with that dude like in the bar afterwards, and he played us like his songs, you know.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing about this whole world of the uber independent filmmaker, and then the people like you and I are just, we have gear, we've had years of experience of making video production or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing about this concept of the true fan, the 1,000 true fans, is like you don't need a lot. I mean, honestly, you know, if you only had like, if you can imagine you had 50 people, 25 to 50 people that are outside of your family and friends that are just, they like what you do, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You can imagine like online, you may be like, oh, that's not a lot of people. You know, like you're like online, but you can imagine in a room with 25 to 50 people looking at you and like going,
Yeah, right.
kind of like perform for us, or they talk about your next film, or what do you do here? You know, that's a real connection, because like even though you may not see them through the online portals, maybe just through tweets and so on, but you know, if you had an opportunity to harness them all together, that they're real people. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really kind of cool because you could just start with like 25, 50 people, and
Mm-hmm.
just these sheer, just doing things for them, you might find out where they're like, man, we really love the music you guys do. Like, it'd be cool if you know, and then your creativity starts sparking, or like,
Yeah.
you know what I could do, like for the next film, like I'll take this thing and do like a music angle, because the small fan base I have wants to see it. And then you can say, look, I'm going to be at this film festival, and we're going to do it this way, or whatever it might be. You know, that 25 goes to 50, 50 goes to 100, 100 goes to 500. You know, it's one of those things, like, that's
Right.
the beauty of it. And then, you know, you might just cap out at like 1,000, 2,000 people. But there's a kind of a weird thing they say, all the experts say, like, once you can get over like 300 followers, or if you can reach like 700 to 1,000 people, because collectively, realistically, we can only really have about 300 true sort of Facebook fans, like Facebook friends, people that we actually knew from high school, from work, and all this kind of stuff. But as soon as you branch out of that scope, where you truly have like 1,000 strangers following you, it's a lot
Mm-hmm.
easier to go from 1,000 people, 1,000 strangers, to 10,000 strangers than it is to go from 100 people, 200 people that kind of know you or know you, to like, you know, 500. Like, it's weird if you got to bust over that
Right.
hump, like 500 to get to 1,000, because then it's easier to skyrocket to like, you know, 10,000. It's just a
Right.
weird math.
Right.
But yeah, so something like that. So you should just enjoy the experience wherever you go,
Uh-huh.
in terms of your festival experience. And if you can harness one or two people to turn into 10, 25, and have a relationship with them online somehow through email, they'll probably, you know, inspire you, because
Yeah.
in some weird way, you're going to feel beholden. You kind of like, oh man, I don't want to let them down, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right, totally.
So let me jump onto this presentation. I'll finish it up, and we can chat
Okay,
some more.
sure.
Okay, so you see this. Yeah, so you have this combo deal. Oh, and then you had another question. So somebody told you, like, well, outside of all this stuff, what are the chances of, like, if a producer's out there that will hire me for a larger budget film? And that's a total possibility, because what you can use is you might have to decide, like, is my film a calling card for something else? But
Mm-hmm.
then again, so that just switches your focus, because then if marketing is nothing more than a method of communicating, but communicating a message that has to have a result, then if your result that you want is for a producer to hire you for a larger budget film, then you steer all your marketing focus onto how does my film play out that would be attractive or value to a set of producers that have done films in a little bit larger scale, so that then all of a sudden now you're not necessarily worried about the audience as much, or audience building, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. Now your focus is just 100% on making sure that you are connecting yourself to these producers. So just being aware of that kind of stuff. And they'll tell you, or through the experience of trying to find out who these particular producers are, because you're being active about it. You're not necessarily sitting back and hoping somebody discovers you. Because that's definitely for the uber independent filmmaker. We're trying to eliminate this whole, demystify this whole thing about being discovered. We actually have to be active about, networking and making things happen for us. And I have your link here, and make sure that people get it, and I will provide more links when this whole page is posted, both on YouTube and on filmtrooper.com, so they can see more about your film. But
awesome.
I want to go back to this whole thing. The main topic was film marketing tips when you have a full-time job. And have you ever heard of this 80-20 rule? So the 80-20 rule is from Pareto, the Pareto principle. Vilfredo Pareto, he was a Italian everything. I don't know, engineer, social, a philosopher, everything. But he had basically, you can get his link there to find more about Mr. Pareto and the Pareto principle. But he came up with this understanding that he realized that 80% of the land at that particular time, because this is like 1910 or something like that. This is when he was living, 1920. He realized that 80% of the land was owned by 20% of the population. So 80-20. So years later, like Perry Marshall came out with a book called 80-20 Sales and Marketing. And now it's part of this ethos in the world of marketing and sales that essentially says, if you have a full, let me go back here, but it essentially says that if the 80-20 rule is like 20% of your effort, of everything that you do, 20% of the things that you do, you're trying to find that right set of 20% that will yield you 80% of the results. So in customers marketing sales, they realize that 80% of the revenue they get from customers are coming from 20% of their marketing efforts, or 20% of their customers. So how does that work for a full-time job? So if you have a full-time job, like everybody does almost, you really only have 20% to work with that in the after hours, right? So you really got to be focused about your 20%, because what you're trying to do with your 20% is like, how do I get 80% of the results from if I can only work in the after hours? And so you focus on that 20% so you can yield that 80% of your results. But again, that all comes back to like being really focused. Like, okay, what results do I want? Like, if I don't want to build an audience, everybody tells me I need to, but I just want to work with a set of producers that will hire me. Do you know what I'm going to do? After hours, I'm just going to focus on making sure I can connect with these producers or know who they are and figure out ways that I can show that I'm valuable to them, and make that my effort. Because every day after work, if that's what you're doing, if you're really focused on that, then you're going to get that 80% result. But if you are looking to build an audience, then you're not worried about whether or not you just get discovered with a producer or anything like that. Then every day after work, you're just going to be serving those 25 fans, 50 fans, 100 fans on a regular basis, because that is your 20%, because you know that the 80% is going to work out for you because you are taking care of them. Again, like I said, is the results do you want? Do you want an audience build? Or like say you have something. Now you're like, okay, I need to sell. I need to make some sales on my digital download. I need people to go to Vimeo on Demand or VHX. So then you realize, like, how can I optimize my sales if I only have 20% of the effort that I can do after work? Well, you may have to partner up. So you may have to focus on 20% of your time looking at people that have a larger audience. This is why they always talk in the world of blogging is the guest blog. So somebody who has a bigger blog, you can offer value to that blogger by writing an article or several articles to help him out or help him or her that site out with content. If that can somehow inadvertently lead to like a call to action that makes people go into buy your movie, things like that. You kind of have to figure out what works. But then you realize that, okay, after work, that's what I'm going to do. I'm focusing on the 20% because I know that if I focus on these bigger blogs or these blogs that have a bigger audience that could inadvertently make sales, then that's what I'll spend my 20% on, because I'm going to believe in the 80% result. And then or it's a DVD sale. It's like, okay, wait. So then I'm going to focus 20% of my effort on where can I make 80% of my DVD sales. So all your effort goes into that. Again, yeah, like impressing a producer. I mean, so just it's really helpful to understand asking yourself that big question of like, what results do I want? And then moving forward, how can I focus my 20% and making sure those results happen? And then you're hoping that at least 80% of results will come out of that. So, yes, always back to the big question. Be focused on what your results you want. And let's see. Oops, leave that. I'll stop this real quick. Cool. So there's sort of more. It's more like an overall strategy as opposed to anything like real specific. But
sure.
But I think it definitely starts with asking the right questions.
Yeah.
I know, believe me, like I'm fumbling all the time. Like all of us creatively are going to do that because it's the next shiny object. Like, oh, maybe we should do that. Like I started doing some videos on YouTube, and I really like it. But the reality is, I'm trying to find out how to be more efficient and put myself on like more of an editorial schedule, so I can be a little bit more regular about it. These Film Marketing Fridays have just slowly began to get a little bit more regular, and I'm trying to figure out. I'm fumbling and bumbling, trying to figure out how to make it more efficient. I just had to sit down and go, "This is what I need to do," and I got some great advice I got to add in here because I'm going to start adding annotations to these longer videos so that if somebody watches on YouTube, they can just click through the chapters and get through, real quick. Because sometimes
that's a good idea. Yeah.
And it's I got to give the proper shout out. Hold on for a second.
Okay.
To Anthony over at he's a CEO at Parallel Worlds Productions, and he runs this Google Plus community called Independent Filmmakers. Well, I want to make sure I get that right because I'm going to probably screw it up. Hold on a second. But Anthony was the one who said you should definitely get the annotations going. It really help. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Yes. So if anybody wants to know, Anthony runs Independent Filmmakers. It's a growing, booming Google Plus community group. It's like over almost 6,000 people on it, and so it's very cool. But anyhow, yeah. So it's being focused. Like I said, like there's so many things more I want to do with the Cube that I haven't had a chance to do, but I'm that plus Film Trooper. Plus we all have jobs, or I have contract work to do too. So it's like it's funny. Like you got to stop sometimes and be like, what is the 20% that I can do today that's going to give me 80% of the results? And it's constantly got to remind yourself, So, but
yeah, or like that question of what result do you want? I think it's amazing how many people you talked to and they just haven't really dug deep into what that is. And like I sat down, when was this? This was Wednesday night. I met a indie producer through Twitter who's done a lot of really cool movies. Mostly documentary, so it doesn't quite fit. But he was kind enough to say, "Hey, let's chat on the phone tonight." And he watched a Dark Souvenir. He really liked it, and he was like, "I want to help out, a new filmmaker who is making great art with no money. So let's talk. I don't know what I can, offer you." And so I sat down that morning to think, okay, I got to be really prepared. What do I want to ask him about how I can market or how I can leverage a Dark Souvenir to get more work, and or do I ask him about film festival promotion? And what came up, I'm like, what do I want? And what I really want is to just be able to keep making movies. And it's not about a Dark Souvenir. It's not about making money off of it. It's not even about how many people see it. It's about being able to continue to make movies. And then you have to think about, okay, well, how do you do that? And I really, from all I'm hearing of you and all the great, like really small indie filmmaker podcasts, are like, we need to really start thinking about how do we connect and build our direct-to-sell audience or direct-to-give audience. That's it. You always have to think about building your audience. So then that's where I got the idea, like, and it was after talking to him, like, I think I need to, right now I don't have an audience to sell to. I have,
Yeah.
like, really small, and I think I just need to give this film away and find creative ways to just build that list. And, like, the festivals that I got into, and, you know, I'm still waiting to hear from a bunch back, maybe the whole point is to just find those people that are interested in my work, collect that, and, you know, if I can use that to, you know, make another movie, bounce ideas off of those fans so that I know they're going to be interested in the next movie that comes out, that's really, really valuable. And that's investing in my career as a filmmaker. But it's like, it really takes stepping way back and thinking about, like, is it just about this movie? And is it just like my ego saying I want to get a full audience in a cool movie theater? And if that's it, I mean, that's fine. That's not my goal. But if that's your goal, it's very different in the steps you want to take to get there than me just running around with a clipboard giving out like free DVDs for signups, you know? So I'm amazed at how few artists actually do step back and ask that question, and I'm amazed at how little I ask that myself, because I think part of it is artists are very impulsive, creative people we're always improvising, and so we need to sort of step back and think, how am I going to get there? And if you only have 20% of your time, cut out all the other things, you know, like, I don't need to make money off of this, so cut that effort out. I don't need, you know, to get a full theater, cut that effort out. So it's just, I'm going to focus on meeting people who like my style of movie that I'm going to collect, you know?
Yeah. You can almost do something at the festival then, is to run a contest at like one of your screenings to say, yeah, I'm going to give you away my film for free in exchange for the email address. And then you can go, but you said it's like, you almost declare it, like, I want to make a movie for you guys, but I need your feedback of, like, you know, what should the next film be? Should it be, should I do a film on this, like, or, you know, if you can share your strengths, you know, my wife and I love to play music and stuff, look at all this great music. People are like, yeah, I like that song, or I like your taste in music, or maybe just have a discussion, like you have these. The great thing about these Google Hangout on Airs, they're free. You can just put it together and you get people together and you talk to people, and then you might just have it in the process of having this back and forth with just a fan. Like, say, you know, say I'm a fan, I'd be like, hey, honestly, there's something to, one, you're living in Philadelphia. Two, there's something about the music taste or your music capabilities that there could be something there. You know, and then I don't know where it goes. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing that out there because maybe it spurs something, and then maybe other people connect with it in the same way, or, you know, I'd be totally off. Maybe you have a large group of people that are like, we really want to know more about this, or we'd love to see you in the style that you make your films to try this, you know. Or, you know, I don't know. There's a tons of things you do, but from somebody, like, if I'm like a fan talking to you, having an opportunity to say something like, you know, with your talents and stuff like that, I think it'd be really cool to explore that part of it. That seemed interesting to me from this film that you created.
Right.
But you don't know. You got to ask your audience, and it's really cool to put yourself in that place of, like, let me be a servant to you as an audience. I will do my best to take whatever ounce of talent I have to try to create something for you. So it becomes much more personal, and it becomes much more intimate. And even if it's like halfway good, you know, the effort is much more sincere than it was. Then it feels like being marketed, and because, you know, filmmakers and as a whole sometimes can be really cynical.
For sure.
But if you have really good fans, they're willing to be like, no, it's cool. I love it. I know what you did here. I know why you had to do it, but this is fantastic. What a great creative, like, choice you made to go that way. Or your fans will tell you, like, you should have done this. So, you know, yeah, okay, you know.
Yeah.
But
totally. I like that idea of figuring out a way to, maybe it's not a contest, but just whatever tool it is to get feedback that you can incorporate. And I don't think you have to look at it as like, oh, I'm giving up my own ideas or my own creative drive, because like you probably felt like this, like creativity can get really crazy and wild with tons of constraints. It's amazing. Like you have to be so much more creative if you only have one camera, you only have a 3-person cast or this or that. So then your fans or your friends, maybe they throw out another constraint, like, well, you have to, it somehow has to be about like dinosaurs, or it somehow has to include like goldfish, and and it's just a way then you can take that and use your own creativity and try and bring your own impulses into it. But I think that's a very cool idea to figure out how to make people feel like, I mean, it's basically making people feel like they own a part of the creative process.
Yeah, yeah, and that's going to be our value. That's how we're going to compete against the studios, because we can't compete with them in this large-scale media push. We can't compete in the volumes, the number of units, the number of sales, like number of transactions. They're going to have large numbers.
Yeah,
Uber Independent is going to have a really small number. So you got to replace that business model from selling volume versus selling value. So you might have a small group of people, but if you can create value, a lot of value, then that's where you're going to win the game. And it's really great because you're going to still have that creative satisfaction, because you're making something, you have a small enough audience that gives you feedback, and if it's you have an audience. That's really. I mean, it sucks making something and nobody sees it, and you're like, I don't know if it's any good,
Yeah.
But just that one person saying, I watched your film and I really liked it. Like, I watched your film and I really liked it. And I liked there's some things in it, like I said, the mumblecore horror, because it has a style to it, but there's this musicality to it that I would like to see more of, something on the next project or something like that.
Yeah.
But just getting feedback, you're like, God, so cool,
I know, it's great. It's great. Like, and it's not just a random like, someone bought your movie on demand. Like, it's an interaction, and it's like, well, what did they like it? What did they like?
Oh yeah.
It's not just like another check or another $2.99 or $2.74 or whatever it is. And that's part of why, like, I'm really excited to go to these film festivals, is just to like be in a room with other people watching your movie. Like, there's still something really cool about that.
Yeah.
To get that experience, and I just haven't shown it to all that many people, so I'm excited to get it out and then take the feedback, like really try and figure out what was it that people connect with, and how can I sort of double down on those efforts for the next one.
I hear you, definitely. Well, listen, I have to cut it right at an hour.
Okay, cool.
Normally I'm really good about just like letting it go, but unfortunately, I got to run and get my daughter. She's finishing up rehearsals for her Shrek the Musical.
Sweet.
So I got dad duties. I got to jam.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
Well, listen, I'd love to have you back on again. Tell us where you are, what experiences, what things you learned, what you didn't, what happened after your festival run, and it'd be great to come back and share that elixir with everybody else. That'd be really wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I'm gonna test out a lot of these ideas. So it's we're both experimenting with what is working, and so I'll check back in with you via email and let you know how it goes, and maybe we can figure out another time to chat.
Yeah, definitely. So as I wrap up here, everybody, make sure you check out Matt's film. You can go to darksouvenir.com. I'll make sure to put up all the links where you can easily click on. And here's my quick housekeeping. Where is it? I can't even play it. As I wrap it up here, you can see this. Yes. So, Hey guys, so I always end it this way, which is, if you're stuck trying to make your film, then I encourage you to go over to freegearguide.com, where you can get a free equipment list of everything that I use to make a feature film with no crew. So, you know, if you're stuck and you're like, you know what, screw it. I don't have a crew. I don't know anybody. I get some gear. I'm going to make a film. Well, I was able to do it, and I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure you can do it a lot better than I did it. But again, that's at freegearguide.com. And hit me up over at filmtrooper.com, because I would love to have you on another episode of Film Marketing Fridays to help all of us, the uber independent filmmaker, solve this last barrier of film marketing. Thanks, everybody. Matt, you want to say bye?
Yeah, thanks everyone, and thank you, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, great. And that's the end of the broadcast.